to another episode of The Mum Show. Today we're going to be talking about playful parenting, and I'm joined by special guest Myra Musaka. So do not go away, grab yourself a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of The Mum Show. My name's Marina, I'm your host. I'm joined again by Pastor Claire Hooper,
hello,
child therapist Emma Brown, and today we have a very special guest for you, Myra Musaka.
Hi,
nice
Myra.
to see you, Myra.
We're so pleased.
And today we are going to be having a little chat about playful parenting. It's not always the easiest thing to do with our kids, to just play and have fun. So how, as mums, can we adopt it? Should we adopt it? Is it an important part of their development? This is what we're going to have a little chat about and find out. And I should have said actually at the beginning, I find this an exciting panel because you are playful.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't be wearing those earrings if you weren't playful.
I'm like a kids worker, constantly.
You are a play therapist.
Yeah.
So this is also very good. And you are a home educating mum.
Yes,
yeah.
Who are living in a life of adventure with your boys.
Yes, we are.
How many boys have you got?
I have 4 boys, aged 9, 8, 5, and 20 months.
Oh, wow.
So we are a busy family.
Yes.
And you have to play.
A lot of it, and it's not all the time that I feel like playing, but you know, it draws us closer as a family.
Definitely.
So it's something that we have to be intentional about. So yeah.
And I love that because you've actually made a move, haven't you, into home educating your kids to create space to play.
Absolutely, and it's been amazing. Yes, I just found that our relationships are so much better as a family. My relationship with the boys has just got so much better. I mean, there was a time when I did feel like there was a little bit of a disconnect and I couldn't quite pinpoint as to where that was coming from. And yeah, so just kind of like making that move has really, really helped us draw closer, and we're just having so much fun together, you know, as a family, you know, so yeah.
What was that crucial change that made you want to make that move, that new adventure?
I think it was just, I just felt like there was more to our family life. You know, I just kind of like got pretty much tired of the whole routine. It just didn't feel like there was room to do much with the children. And I just felt like, you know, I was kind of like running dry in my motherhood journey, and something that I prayed about and asked God, like, God, I'm not really experiencing the joy of motherhood right now. I know that I'm supposed to be enjoying this season of my life, and at the time it just didn't feel like I was enjoying it. It just felt like we're kind of like in survival mode as a family, and I just wondered how we would be able to have a rich family life, which is something I wanted to pass on to my children. And I was aware of the fact that they were growing up, and you know, I just kind of like began to think about what sort of relationship I wanted to have with them as they grew up.
That's so good.
So, you know, as they maybe grow up into their teenagers and as into their adult years, you know.
So would you say that joy impacts your ability to play with your kids?
I think to some extent, yes, but it's not all the time that I'm feeling joyful, you know, and it's not all the time that I want to play with my children. And it has taken me kind of like, I've had to make sacrifices to be able to do that. And it's something that just doesn't happen. I have to plan for it. You know, I have to plan for it emotionally, spiritually, physically. You know, that kind of thing. And sometimes I have to do things that I don't particularly enjoy doing. I've had to recently just step into my children's world. They're into Pokemon at the moment. And I've had to kind of like learn about all these different characters that they're interested in. Not that I'm interested in that, but I realized that in doing that, it's helped me bond with my boys in such a way that I don't think I would have ever done had I not stepped into their world, you know, and it's such a great conversation starter for me and my children.
You've got to catch them all.
Absolutely.
I love watching my kids play. I find it really exciting. I usually let them establish their play, and then I'll kind of jump in, because I guess in my house there's a lot of role play. There's a lot of small world play and lots of Lego, which I could do all day, because that's just really relaxing. And then other than that, they do a lot of role play. But I've got some photos to show you, because you know I like my photos. So these are some of their hilarious games. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So we've got the first one to come up. So this is called Being Born. They are being born underneath the bed at the moment. They squeeze themselves out for half an hour, and that's their being born game. They pretend the bed is giving birth to them.
Amazing. I love Ruben's face on that one. That is just incredible.
This one is a pirate ship, as you can see. Lasted about 4 hours. The wood's my favourite place to play. Quite liked that one. Yeah. Mainly because me and my sister could just chat and they got in with it themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, chef's all-time favourite. I've never fed my kids raw eggs, sugar snap peas and milk. For them, that's just like the perfect combination. Ah, the hamster! How cute is that? So I like we have just a general role play going on in our family that just spills over, and I'd love to know what your favourite games are. In my house, I have what's called the Angry Spanish Lady. And so we do like just for fun, like I go, do your angry Spanish, and it gets them really excited, and I go, oh, Lilia, Ruben, ahora mismo, like this, and they go, ah! It's our angry Spanish lady. So what's your favourite games to play with your kids?
Oh,
On the spot.
I know, right?
I think at the moment, because we go through phases, don't we? There's there's a game of the moment, isn't there? At the moment, I kind of, because my girls are a little bit older, but just to kind of get physical with them, find it anyway. And often in our climate, unfortunately, in Yorkshire, it rains a lot, so we don't get a chance to be outside as much as we want to. So kind of making dens, but also, you know that thing where you wrap yourself up in a duvet and go down the stairs?
yeah. Never done that.
What? Never done that.
You
I live
need
in
to
a
go.
bungalow.
You need to. Oh,
I'm coming round.
You need to do that, because it just creates joy and laughter.
Totally.
And you know, sometimes when the siblings, my girls are 14 and 10, sometimes they don't see eye to eye on everything, and it's just a chance for them to just enjoy each other really and have some fun.
Claire, best game, go on.
Currently now, the in the now
Whenever.
game. Well, it's what's coming to mind. We've got a little board game called Dobble, and it's like a round tin.
I love Dobble.
It's so good.
I love Dobble.
But it's addictive, isn't it?
Addictive.
And you can play it with a lot of ages. It spans loads of ages, but it is cutthroat. So be warned, if you play it, you have to be quick and not mind a bit of grabbing.
Brilliant.
But it's a matching game. It's a matching game that you have to find. It's a kind of like grown-up Snap.
I like that. Myra, favourite game to play with your boys?
My boys are very active and they like to be outdoors a lot. So when we're out, they just kind of like catch, you know. They just, yes. I mean, we try and go out as much as we can, because I find that it's quite good for them to form a relationship with each other as well when we're outdoors.
Totally.
And it's quite good for us as well. You know, indoors, one of my boys is not very good with board games, you know, because he just he can't concentrate, he doesn't like losing.
Yeah.
So it never ends well. And no, not all the kids engage in that. But when we're outdoors, I find that everybody just kind of like, we all have something to do. Yes. So that works better for us right now.
Yeah.
Right, I've got a treat for you, because we're going to watch a VT about, we're going to watch a video from the kids about parenting, and we've got your boy on it.
Oh, great.
So now we're going to find out if he thinks you're a playful parent.
All right, okay.
So let's find out. Let's have a listen to the kids.
Mum, show kids action! I like playing hide and seek with my mum. My mum is always good at finding me. Straight away as she sees finished counting. I go like this. When is she gonna find me?
Well, I don't play any games with my mum, except for a lot of board games with my dad and mum and Josh.
And what do you like playing with your dad?
Board games too, because that's all I play with him.
I like playing football with my dad. My dad's good at football, but I'm better than him.
I do sometimes play football with him. I used to a lot, and I was always in the goalie.
Sometimes we play hide and seek tag, and my dad always finds me. And then he tries to take me, but then sometimes he just go and hide again because he's distracted by one of my brothers. So then after he finds me again, then he finally gets me because he's too fast for me.
Who is more fun, Mummy or Daddy?
I think Dad is more fun because he's playful and he always plays nice games with me.
I think Dad, because I'm more up for a harder game.
I think Mum and Dad are both good at playing. I enjoy playing with both of them.
What makes grown-ups good to play with?
Well, you can't necessarily interrupt grown-ups while they're chatting all the time, but it's especially good when they're part of a family and they play board games or something like that.
Awesome. What do you think grown-ups should know about playing?
To be more fun.
What's more important to you? Playing with your mum and dad or cuddles with your mum and dad?
I like cuddles more because they're really nice and really warm. I like cuddles with my mum and dad and playing games with them just as much.
I like cuddles and playing the same.
So good.
Ah, see, you are a good mum.
Hide and seek.
Hide and seek.
You're good at that game.
It's so cute, isn't it? I find it interesting. What do grown-ups need to know? She says it really simply, doesn't she? Be more fun. Yeah. Be more fun, because it isn't always easy, is it? What do you think parents struggle with when it comes to playing? Or what do you find your biggest struggles with when it comes to playing? What makes you go, oh?
Well, I love what you said, Myra, about having it kind of making a choice and being intentional about playing, because it actually, sometimes it doesn't come naturally to us. We kind of expect it to come naturally because kids play, and when we become parents, we feel like we should play. But actually, not all of us were played with. When we were children, and actually we, you know, again, we talk a lot about how our own parenting history has such a big influence and impact on how we learn to relate and play with and be with our own children. And so playing is a huge part of that. If you've never been played with, actually to kind of sit down and play with your child can feel really scary and really threatening. In my work particularly, and I am a play therapist, and I do lots of individual play therapy with children, but I also feel really passionate about helping that relationship between parents and children, particularly when it's struggling or not going so great. So we do a special sort of play therapy called filial play therapy, where I teach parents the art of just being with and playing with their children, which sounds really simple, but for some parents it's really, really hard, and they need to kind of go back and work out and notice what feelings get created when they're sat on the floor just being with their child.
Do you think it's the feelings of awkwardness and exposing and feeling inadequate, not knowing what to do, and
all of those things, Claire, all of those things, the kind of feeling of shame, feeling that not really knowing how to relate to their child in that way. You know, lots of as parents kind of are good at the kind of feeding and meeting the basic needs, aren't we? But actually just being with our children, and that's what, you know, I'm always blown away time and time again. I've been doing the job I do for many years now, but each time a child, I do play therapy with a child, and they move from and they just through the act of being with an adult who is absolutely present with them for a period of time, consistent, with some toys that they can use their imagination with and be creative with, how healing that process can be for children, and you know, children who have experienced trauma and abuse, but also children who are just struggling with a bit of anxiety or worries.
Play breeds creativity, and our God is a creative God. That's where it comes from. You can't have Jesus telling all those stories that are parables, that are like role play, without knowing that he's a creative God, and creativity is playful. Also, God is so interested in rest and recreation that he said to us, you've got to have a Sabbath. On the seventh day, he created a day of rest. Put everything out, everything's done, I've made everything. Now this day is for you to just have space, and within space, breeds creativity. With him, actually, boredom leads to creativity. We've sometimes got to let our children reach a place where they're not fully, completely occupied with something, and a thing, a this, a that, and another. Every second of their day is so full, not got space just to breathe and breed creativity. I just can see it all the time where there's a stunting of creativity because we don't allow our children to.
Absolutely.
And ourselves too. We fill every minute of every day and then wonder why we don't have the confidence to be playful. And Brené Brown says this. She's a great book if you ever get the chance to read any of her work. She's actually a shame expert in shame, is it? An expert in shame. And one of her statements is this: unused creativity is like cancer to the body. So basically saying, you know, if you don't use your creativity, it will cause you harm. And I think that's those two things are linked. And God being a creative God, his nature is to create and breathe life. I mean, actually, just some of the wonderful animals He's created. Any God that could create a narwhal, you know, for no other reason but just to be a playful creature with a big horn under the sea.
And we're created to enjoy a very sensory life, and we're created with these senses,
and the taste and the smell and sound, and
the idea that we have to eat food to sustain us. You know, there's so much pleasure, and there's in what we can taste and what we can touch. You know, the feel of cold grass on your feet, and you know, it's all designed for this kind of pleasure and enjoyment, isn't it?
Well, there's actually stages of play development that we talk about that from those early years, and this is why when you know if any of you've got very young children, you've got to allow them to get messy. You've got to allow them to experience the feel of, you know, wet paint in their hands, or the experience of sand between their toes. And for a lot of parents that can cause anxiety because we don't like mess. But actually when we know that you know, our brains are wired to play, our brains are wired for exploration, and we have to allow our babies to explore that sensory type of play when they're very, very little. They then go on to develop that kind of what we call it projective play, which is the small world play, or being able to use, you know, a cardboard box as a baby's bed, for example, you know, being able to kind of use their imagination, and then they move on to role play in the end as well. But it's crucial. It's not just, you know, about having fun, although that's a big element of it. It's crucial to their brain development, to every area of their development, their social skills, their cognitive abilities, their intellect, their IQ. You know, if we want to invest in our children, you know, allow them space to play. I really love what you say, Claire, about not structuring every moment of their day. I think as parents we feel the need to, you know, get them in so many different clubs after school. And, you know, we have a rule that we absolutely have to have at least 2 nights a week where they've not got something on, where they can just be and get bored.
Totally.
And that's when they start to be able to use their creative.
I don't know, Myra, if you noticed this, but obviously I started a home education journey.
Yes.
And decided to make a huge jump out of education, and we're 12 months down that road now, and part of it was an educational philosophy really, and part of it was my children needing to be in a place where they could just go back to who they were and just restore themselves and be built back up. And I noticed actually that when I first pulled them out of education and out of having everything presented and provided for them, you go through this time of boredom. And I remember your boys going, we met up, didn't we? And I remember your boys going, I'm so bored, I'm so bored, I'm so bored. And we call it, like, there's a process that we call deschooling. And you take your kids through that process. And there's a breakthrough moment, isn't there? When all of a sudden it's like they go, I've got it within me. I've got the reserves within me. And you start to see them to play and to create and to just find that sense of fun. Is that something you found?
Totally. I have found that with my boys as well. I mean, to start with, like you're saying, Marina, it was just like, Mom, I need to be doing something. You know, what can I do? Like just coming to me constantly asking, what can I do now? What can I do next? What am I supposed to be doing? You know, but that's not, you know, that's not the case now. You know, they just pretty much find something to do.
But you have to be brave, don't you? You have to say,
it takes courage.
I'm prepared to let you get really bored and frustrated so that you can push through that. But I think, like, do you think as parents sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and parents don't always like, I've heard so many people say, oh, I just don't want to play with the kids. And I felt that myself. And I think sometimes that comes down to exhaustion. I'm like, if I play this hospital game where I'm laying on the floor any longer, I will not stay awake. That is not going to happen. Or just like, really, I don't want to have to be a donkey. I'm really tired. Go on, Daddy's back. Daddies are very playful, I have to say. That is their zone as well. But do you think that there is perhaps a fear going on for parents where we're so told now, we're sold this thing of give them this app and they'll be brainy, give them this toy and they'll be this, give them that and they'll be brilliant, that we're scared to take away these things from them and just explore play? Do you think that that can sometimes maybe get in the way of parents being playful?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we need to model being playful, don't we? We need to somehow get back in touch with kind of what makes our hearts kind of feel joy, what makes our hearts kind of sing. And I know I'd be really curious to find out from each of us what it is, if we were kind of, what would be our form of play, you know, what do we do? I know for me, it's probably just kind of putting some loud music on and dancing. And I can't dance, but just kind of going for it, singing at the top of voice, dancing. The girls normally join in, and it's something that the three of us can do together, particularly at this stage that they're at. And it's my form of just letting your inhibitions go. It's kind of just getting back in touch with, you know, that sense of kind of pure joy, really.
Totally.
What about you, Claire?
I skip through fields. I know, like, it sounds like...
I love that.
Because, I mean, where we're filming now, I wish you could see it. It's like my hometown, and there's just fields everywhere, and every season brings snow or bluebells or, you know, grasses, and I literally take my dog and we run when I'm on my own, and sometimes if my children will come with me because they are embarrassed sometimes by my behaviour, through the fields.
The sound of music playing in the background.
Yeah, that really is my life. Like, I love the garden, I love being on the trampoline with the kids. I just love being active. I love gardening, I loved colouring. I have colouring books myself. I love to draw, I love to do things. I love to be creative with social media. I like to play there. I like to play board games.
There's so much, isn't there? What about you, Myra? Have you kind of think of anything that you
I think like you, Emma, I just love music. I love listening to music and just dancing, and my two younger boys usually join me with that because that's something that they particularly enjoy as well.
Definitely.
What about you, Marina?
Well, I go a bit bonkers sometimes, just spontaneously. It's just like, I know you. You do. I just like, you know, I like to be playful when they're not, to get them hyped up a little bit. Like, that's my favourite thing. So if they're watching TV, I'll go and stand in front of it and I'll be like...
Yeah, I do that tonight sometimes.
And they're like,
they just ignore me now.
And I'm like, come on, you know you wanna. So probably anything that involves silly accents, being bonkers, messing around, dancing, that sort of thing is probably, I'd say, one of my favourite things.
Do you know what, though? What you were it's just kind of triggered.
Oh no, she's going to therapise me.
No, I just think that it's also, you know, at that tricky time when we're kind of, you know, I'm talking from experience here with a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, that actually, you know, I sometimes I really say to Erin, come on, get your toys out again, let's play. And they're just not, they're not really in that space. But I think what it can do is if we adopt a playful attitude in our parenting, it can sometimes be a brilliant way to diffuse conflict. Can't it?
So true.
Sometimes when you're in the throes of it and you kind of just, you know, you're almost getting to shouting point, it's just, you just kind of have to say something that's just going to completely change and you've got to know your kid to know whether they can take it or not, because some children find that a bit too much, but actually for some of them it can be really, really helpful to be playful.
There's a quote on a programme and the dad goes, you look stressed, sway with me. And it really made me laugh, and it made the kids laugh, so I do that now. I'm like, you look stressed, sway with me. And it always just makes them chuckle.
We have to be aware that it's not... we're not supposed to fulfil our child's every happiness, though, as well. And we're not. I sometimes say to my kids, I am not Disney, and Minnie Mouse is not my middle name. Happiness is an inside job.
I'm disappointed now.
We always thought.
Minnie Mouse, I know, she's not, it's not. But happiness is an inside job, and I can be happy, and I can model happiness, and I can give my kids lots of resources and lots of opportunities to choose happiness, but I cannot make them happy. And making happiness making making your kids happy, a goal, is relentless, and they will drive you crazy to fill their time with everything like you guys found until you were able to break that barrier, to fill their every minute of every day. And actually, they've got to find it from within as well. And that's where the God bit comes in. They connect the creativity of God within inside of them, and they learn to draw on Him for their needs, not just on you to be fulfilled by their every need. It's the...
I really like what you did there when you were asking us what our things were, because it made me remember, you know, quite often I think as adults we can get stuck thinking, how am I going to make you happy? Like, if I'm going to play, then I have to make you happy. But I think that children, what I've learned from you, Emma, and you, Claire, is that they mirror, is that they're sociable, is that they enjoy what we enjoy. And so actually maybe what would be super helpful as parents is, rather than us trying to stay constantly creating new entertainments and forms, is actually think of what makes us playful.
That's right, yeah.
And it kind of relieves that pressure a little bit, doesn't it, of, you know, how am I going to amuse you, to what makes me feel playful, because I benefit.
Absolutely.
I benefit from being playful and getting a bit hyper and having a bit of love. And it can be so hard for parents, can't it? And it can feel actually like another motherhood pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think, Emma, you would probably say that being playful isn't actually necessarily a choice. Like, as in, it's not something that we get to opt in or out of. It's actually essential when it comes to our kids.
It is essential, but I think we also need to acknowledge that it's not always easy.
Absolutely.
Particularly when we're experiencing difficult kind of feelings or emotions, or going through a difficult period in our lives. But then I think we need to ask for help, and you know, like you were saying earlier about dads being a really good playful figure. You know, it's not all our responsibility, is it? Yeah. We need to share the load and ask. Yeah, it's a team effort.
Tag. Dad, tag, you're it.
Absolutely. But they can offer something different, can't they, dads? Often.
So true.
So different, which is good.
Yes, especially depending on who is working and who's doing what and who's carrying the chores, and different stages of life as well. It depends. You do have to work on that as a team.
Yeah. I guess really what we're saying is the importance then is making space.
Yeah.
Being intentional. Back to what Myra said earlier. So important.
I mean, I found, for example, one of my distractions was just the housework.
Yeah.
You know, I would rather just kind of like leave my kids to do what they're doing and get on with something else. You know, the laundry or just whatever it is that I have to do that day. But actually, I realized that, you know, I was missing an opportunity then to connect with my kids. I mean, there is a time to kind of like leave your kids to get on with that. But I found that actually when the boys are playing, you know, together, or they've brought something that's kind of like interesting to them, I found that beneficial to actually step in there and join them whilst they are doing that. So kind of like looking for spaces in the day when I can connect with each child whilst they're playing. I found that quite beneficial, rather than rushing to do my laundry or, you know, my housework or whatever it is I need to do.
Definitely a good observation, that.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good, isn't it? I think, I guess what I'm taking away from this as well, it's really tapping into that joy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tapping into, do you know what? Connect yourself with God. Find that joyful place with Him. Let Him be your source. Let Him be your peace. And then allow things to happen, because actually, creativity, if given space, it does that. It's an active word, and it just creates, doesn't it? Which is so exciting. Now, Emma, I believe you're going to do a little bit more information on this, aren't you?
I certainly can.
Great. Yeah. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have had fun. And if not, go and have fun and do some playing. Do hide and seek, whatever it is you want to do. But in the meantime, if you do need some help, if this is an area of frustration in your life and you would like a few more tips, then our play therapist, Emma Browne, is going to put some information up on our website. You can go and have a look at that now. It's at promisecollective.co.uk. And yeah, see where that takes you. Anyway, I shan't take any more of your time. You have fun and games to have. So we'll see you next time on The Mum Show.
Hello parents, don't forget to say hello. We're at promisecollective.co.uk. Bye!